Hey guys, this is going to be a little more of a sadder video today. So I'm giving you a bit of warning. But yeah, I'll just get right into it. Basically, a couple days ago, saw a post on Instagram that was harmless. Let me just mute the audios. I don't know if that's copyrighted. It said, "Sometimes I mourn the forest we never got to see." So, picture that. There's a couple there with a saw. That is my caps lock key. And pretty big tree. Guys saw. Go down. What do we get in frame? There we go. So, scroll. Shows a couple statistics. Another big tree. And I've seen a couple of posts on Instagram like this before. It's just showing the logging practices of the 19th and early 20th century. And yeah, it's nothing more than that. I mourn the forest I never got to see. It's true. There was a lot of deforestation in the early days of Manifest Destiny and a little bit more beyond that, that cut down a lot of old growth timber, or grand cut, which it's called in the logging industry. But that's not the topic of this video. It's just a post showing what America's forests used to look like, which is completely fine. America still has old growth forests, which are still open to the public. Anyone can tour them. And I recommend it personally. I've been there a couple of times across the country to see them. And no, they're quite stunning. It's beautiful. But what is the topic of this video is I commented, "I always have so much respect for axemen, one of the highest death percentage of any job," which is true. And people, I guess they just rubbed them the wrong way when I said this. I said, basically, what I was saying is, I respect the axemen because they risk their life every single day so that we can have stuff like 2x4s, wood, anything made out of wood, is because of them. Remember, deforestation never came up in my post or my comment. So, first person responded said, "Too bad their work doesn't do anything worthwhile," which, okay, may not be true, but it's an opinion, so I'm like, okay. People said, "I quite like living in a shelter," which, yep, wood builds houses, shelter, which shelter is something humanity has always needed. People act like, well, you don't need a shelter. No. Humankind generally, unless we evolve to, we have not been able to break the elements. I don't know. Which, we're not the only creature that does that. Other animals create their own shelters from the environment around them, like ants, beavers, name a few. And people said, yeah, lumber's a renewable resource, which is true. A lot of the 2x4 wood that you see now that actually makes 2x4s is called from, most likely, from longleaf pine, which is a tree that grows very, very fast and very straight. And at that point, it's not really like a wild tree. It's more like a crop, because we grow them in big circles, and then we cut our way around it. By the time you reach to where you started, the new trees have already grown tall, so you can cut them down and keep on going. And then someone said, "It's too bad that they don't die more." So now we've gone from, "I don't think their work does that much," to, "I like living in shelter, so we need them," to, "It's a renewable resource," to wishing death upon people. Now, this is a topic that is very, very dark, especially because to wish death upon someone is an immoral action. Imagine going up to one of these workers' families and telling them, I wish that he was dead because of what he does. All they're doing is doing their job. They're not controlling how much trees are cut. They just take orders, they do their job, and they go home so they can feed their families. And I responded, please don't wish death upon people. That's not a good thing to do. But apparently people didn't like that response because apparently, nope, if you cut trees down, you deserve to die, apparently. And, sorry, people in my house are talking. Then the same person said, I have a blanket policy where all deforestation is unethical. I breathe oxygen, so it's in my best interest to keep trees around. We can entertain your little opinion here once rampant deforestation isn't consuming the planet. Deal? So respond to this. Not everything made out of wood involves deforestation. Now, in the 1900s, in the early 20th century, which this post, the post in general, this is just the comment section, but post in general is covering, that is grand cutting, meaning the entire forest trimmed. Many states, including my state, New York, which I live in, was logged, and yeah, that's deforestation. However, not every tree cut is deforestation. If I cut one tree in my backyard and there's dozens of others around them, that does not qualify as deforestation. That qualifies as cutting a tree down. And that's what the majority of loggers do. They don't cut the entire forest down because there's no way, without modern regulations, that would be allowed. And to assume that every time logging operations go on, that trees cut down, that's not the case. In fact, the only trees that are ever really cut down are straight ones that are not affected by a neighbor and are either dead on the ground or sick or about to die. That is because of, again, regulations, and also because when the tree is already dead, that means the wood is dry and the sap is no longer flowing. So yeah. The only times trees that are not straight are cut down is because of them impeding another tree that is straight's way of growth, or whatever. So to continue, at my count, for every one you respect, I spit on 2 graves. Then more argue in the comments. Someone has a good opinion I respect. The workers themselves are not the problem, it's the industry and the owners. Which, okay, that's actually a productive thing to say in this conversation, instead of, I wish they were dead, anyone who cuts trees down deserves to die. And then someone brings up the point, wood is the most sustainable resource that we have, which is true. Wood is, there we go. Wood is an extremely renewable resource. It is a material that we can literally grow. So just like food, if we need more of it, we can grow more. Same with trees. If we need more trees, we can grow more trees. But then someone says we've cleared out entire forests to fuel us, and we're only dwindling them more as we go. Now this is a opinion that is true. However, it contradicts the original post statistic, meaning assuming that humanity, as we get more of us, we need more resources, right? Meaning that we have less resources than we've ever had, but we're still supplying houses and new trees are growing, but I see him on with the process. Some kind of bad things here. So yeah, we're cleared entire forest to fuel us, but not all wood is firewood, which is what I assume they're thinking when they say fuel us, unless they think of fuel us as like drive progress, which progress is a much more big topic. But yeah, so someone said that. And someone says there's trillions of trees, which is true. Well, there is lots and lots of trees. I mean, I don't think we'll ever run out of trees. The use for wood. That's just how it is. And then two people get in a really heated argument. Someone found me, no LOL. And someone responded, didn't kill enough. And at me, applying my original posts, that's called karma. And the last person responded, there are a lot of other resources than wood that all build houses and are way a lot more durable. Okay, so on to the conversation. Alternative resources to building houses. So, you could say, yeah, we're going to live in the modern age. You don't need to build a house out of wood anymore. So what are alternative options? Well, there is brick. Now, brick comes from the ground, in the form of clay. Clay needs to be dug up, and also clay is a very important deposit on a lot of river sides, and it's very good for the soil because it just makes better soil when clay content is in there. So we would have to dig up that stuff, process it, which means machines, which means gas, which means fossil fuels, and yeah. So then we would have this big crater where we're doing our clay operation. That is my clock going off. That's goes off a lot of times. But back on topic, we'd have to excavate the area, which meaning if there's any trees in the way, we would have to take those trees out, which for a lot of these people would be called deforestation. But say, you know what, no, we're not going to do brick, we're going to do stone. Okay, so stone, another strong material. It does have slight insulating properties. It also keeps rooms cold during the summertime because it takes a lot to heat up stone, has a lot of conductive capacity. Not conductive, thermal capacity. But to get stone, we would have to obviously drill under the ground and take the stone out of bedrock below, which causes a whole bunch of problems. Again, machines pick the stone out, fossil fuels. Now when you dig under the ground, say this is the surface, we dig down, we go under. This surface up here now has risk to cave in because that supporting material that was below it is now not there, which can cause sinkholes. Now, sinkholes can do loads of damage. I saw another Instagram post of a sinkhole literally swallowing a forest hole. And that's not, and in that case, trees can never grow back because the soil is just not there anymore. So, stone's out of the way. Well, how like a super futuristic synthetic material? If that was the case, then it would probably need a lot of resources that go into it to make the new material. And if that's the case, then that could trace back to a lot of industries that do harm to the planet. So in all, I think wood is still our most sustainable option to build stuff. If there was a nice and easy option that would genuinely, fix this problem, then it probably would have been done in the past. And that's what a lot of people don't like to talk about. They always want to be, I'm right, you're wrong, conversation over. But in reality, it's just horrible to see a society where wishing death upon people is okay online. I watched a video probably a couple of weeks ago from Jacksepticeye, which I respect greatly, like a boss. And he said something that I agree with very much, and that's, these days it feels like everyone online is just constantly angry, which is, I agree with. In these past couple of years, I've just seen people wanting to wage war against anyone who inconveniences them or disagrees with them, because at the end of the day, they have to be part of the problem, not me, because if I was part of the problem, then I would already be taken care of, right? But it is quite sad to see that just by posting, I respect these people for what they do, because every time they put that helmet on, there's a potential that they won't come home. And I knew a couple people who were in the industry that didn't come home. Very, very good people, but I don't know, it kind of breaks my heart to see people just want people dead that are just doing their jobs, especially when their reasons are not that justified to say that. Another thing I see a lot in this comment section, which at this point can be probably classified a flame war, is just the overusage of stop spreading misinformation. I feel like that's, I'll put my phone away because I've covered everything here. I feel like that's being way overused now. Like, anytime anyone says anything that they disagree with, they'll say, stop spreading misinformation. When they themselves don't say, they could have said, hi, I reviewed your, or I saw your last post, I just want to inform you that it's not true, and here's some evidence of why I think that's not true and why it's not true. But people just want to be, they want to be the winner. They're treating conversations like a team sport, when in reality, it was just someone's opinion. I was just saying something, in my opinion, I was just saying something nice. Saying, I hope they stay safe. They're a very dangerous job, and they're trying to feed their families when people just want to see them dead. But where I will not be wishing death to workers or axemen, I will be wishing death to hate. Hate is what divides us as a species. It kills me to see that so much of us, so many problems and issues in our world are caused by hate. We gotta realize that ourselves is literally the only thing holding us back. If we didn't hate each other to the point where we decide these people need to be dead, I've had enough of them, they need to be dead, it's really saddening, because imagine saying something like that in real life, going up to a logger's family saying, I wish he was dead because if he kills trees, he needs to be dead. It's sad. But I will end this video on a good note. The more time situations like these happen, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Meaning, if hate blossoms, every yin for every yang, love will blossom. That's why I made this video, because I want people to spread love and happiness and respect and just, I don't know, morals or anything. So yeah, just don't wish people death. Be respectful. Argue. If you're going to argue and debate someone, also do that respectfully. Just, if you wouldn't say it in real life, don't say it online. I guess that's the golden rule of that I think a lot of people have forgotten. But that's pretty much it, guys. And in the case that this video blows up for some reason, which I really hope it doesn't, because probably there'll be another flame war in my comment section flaming me and just saying bad things. But you know what? If that happens, it happens. But in that case, just about it. See ya.